Plainfield, Wisconsin, November 1957. A snow-covered farmhouse stands silent. Inside, police make a discovery so grotesque, it will haunt America forever. Human skin turned into lampshades, skulls as bowls, a belt made of human flesh, and in the middle of it all, one man. His name, Ed Gein, the quiet, lonely neighbor, who inspired the most terrifying killers in fiction. Plainfield was the kind of place where doors stayed unlocked, and neighbors waved as they passed. Everyone knew everyone, or thought they did. Ed Gein was just Eddie, a soft-spoken handyman. Lived alone after his mother died, shopped at the local hardware store, helped with odd jobs. No one suspected the darkness hiding behind his pale blue eyes. November 16, 1957. Bernice Worden, owner of the local hardware store, vanished in broad daylight. The cash register was missing. A trail of blood led out the back door. Witnesses saw Ed's truck parked outside that morning. It was the first thread in a web no one wanted to see unravel. Sheriff's deputies found Ed at a neighbor's house that night, calm, almost polite. He didn't resist, just stared, like a man who already knew the game was over. But nothing could prepare them for what waited inside his farmhouse. The front door was nailed shut. Inside, the smell hit first. Rotting flesh, damp earth, decay then. The trophies, furniture upholstered with human skin masks made from faces. Bones turned into ornaments. In a shed, Bernice Worden's body hung upside down, headless, gutted like a deer. It wasn't just murder, it was something worse. Ed was born in 1906, the second son of George and Augusta Gein. His father, a violent alcoholic, his mother, deeply religious, fanatically controlling. Augusta preached that women, except herself, were sinful and corrupt. She isolated Ed and his brother from the world, drilling into them that the outside was evil. Ed listened, always obedient, always watching. Augusta was more than a parent to Ed. She was a god. Her word was law. Her approval, the only light in his dark little world. He never dated, never had friends, never questioned her sermons about sin, lust, and damnation. His entire reality was her voice. In 1940, Ed's father died. 4 years later, his older brother Henry was found dead in a marsh under mysterious circumstances. Bruises on his head, though police ruled it an accident. By 1945, Augusta suffered a stroke. Ed nursed her obsessively until she died. When she was gone, something inside him broke. The only person he had ever loved. Gone. The only voice he had ever followed. Silent. After Augusta's death, Ed sealed off her bedroom, kept it like a shrine. The rest of the house rotted away, filled with garbage, dust, and darkness. He spent his days doing odd jobs, reading pulp horror magazines, and obsessing over anatomy books and stories about cannibals and Nazis night after night. He wandered the local cemetery. Ed confessed to robbing graves, digging up the bodies of recently buried women who reminded him of his mother. He skinned them, made masks from their faces, sewed their skin into clothing. He wanted to be his mother again, wear her like a second skin. The murders were only part of his nightmare. December 8, 1954, Mary Hogan, a tavern owner, vanished without a trace. Her bar was left open, her purse still on the counter. For years, no one knew what happened. But in Ed Gein's kitchen, police found her face, tanned like leather, kept in a paper bag. Bernice's death was different. Ed didn't dig her up. He took her while she was alive. Her body strung up like a deer in his shed, became the final proof that the quiet, lonely handyman was something far worse than anyone could imagine. Ed didn't deny anything. He spoke in a calm, matter-of-fact tone, like he was describing fixing a fence. He admitted to killing Bernice Worden and Mary Hogan, and to stealing bodies from graves. What shocked investigators most wasn't just the murders. It was the sheer scale of his collection. Human skulls used as bowls, chairs upholstered in skin, a lampshade made from a human face, a belt made of nipples, gloves made from human hands. The house was a museum of the dead, and Ed had lived among it for years, quietly, as if it were normal. In perhaps the most disturbing revelation, Ed confessed he was making a woman's suit from the skin of his victims. He wanted to wear it, become his mother, crawl back into her skin. It wasn't just murder, it was transformation, a ritual of madness. When Ed Gein faced trial, the courtroom was packed, not just with townsfolk, but with reporters from across the country. Everyone wanted to see the Plainfield ghoul. His lawyers argued insanity. Psychiatrists diagnosed him with schizophrenia. They said he didn't know right from wrong, that he lived in a fantasy world of death and resurrection. The judge ruled him legally insane. Ed was sent to the Central State Hospital for the criminally insane. No prison cell, just a locked ward, white walls, and endless years of quiet observation. The monster was gone from Plainfield, but the shadow of his crime stayed forever. Plainfield was never the same. The hardware store where Bernice was taken closed its doors. The farmhouse where Ed committed his crimes rotted away until it was burned down by an arsonist in 1958. No one wanted the land. No one wanted the memory. Ed Gein spent the rest of his life in mental institutions. By all accounts, he was a model patient, polite, cooperative, even friendly. But behind those pale eyes was a man who had lived among the dead. In 1984, Ed died of cancer at age 77. His grave, ironically, became a tourist attraction until vandals stole the headstone. Ed Gein's crimes inspired some of the most iconic horror characters in history. Norman Bates in Psycho, Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. He never intended to be famous, but in the shadows of cinema, Ed Gein became immortal. Ed Gein wasn't a criminal mastermind. He wasn't even a serial killer in the traditional sense. He was something else, a product of isolation, obsession, and a mind twisted beyond repair. Psychologists still debate whether he was driven by madness, grief, or a dark desire for transformation. The truth, he was all three. Ed Gein became the embodiment of the rural nightmare, the idea that behind the quiet walls of a small-town home, unthinkable horrors can grow in silence. You didn't see him coming. You wouldn't hear him in the night. Evil, in his case, didn't need the city. It grew just fine in the middle of nowhere. From the day of his arrest, Ed Gein carved a permanent scar into America's collective fear. His name still sends chills, not because of how many he killed, but because of what he did with the dead. It's the kind of story you wish you could unhear, but can't. People tell Ed Gein's story like they tell ghost stories, around campfires, in documentaries, in horror films. But this wasn't fiction. This wasn't a movie monster. This was a man your grandmother might have waved to at the grocery store, and that's what makes it worse. Ed Gein's farmhouse is gone. His grave is unmarked, but the legend remains. Not to glorify him, not to make him famous, but as a reminder, the real monsters don't always live in the dark. Sometimes they live right next door,